Canada has leveled a fourth round of sanctions today on prominent members of Iran's regime. The newest sanctions target 4 individuals and 2 entities, including Tehran's police commander and the country's deputy attorney general. Those sanctions come as anti-regime protests continue well into a second month. Just this past weekend, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau hinted he viewed those demonstrations as revolutionary. He made those comments while demonstrating in solidarity with Iranians. Meanwhile, a group of prominent female leaders are calling for action at the United Nations on Iran. They've written an open letter, and it's signed by the likes of Hillary Clinton, published in the New York Times, calling for the immediate expulsion of the Islamic Republic from the top UN body for women's rights. They warn the violence and loss of life will continue without global intervention at the highest levels. Roya Boroumand is one of the signatories. She heads the Washington-based Abdorrahman Boroumand Center, advocating for human rights in Iran. Ms. Boroumand, thank you very much for making the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Marcia.
Can you explain to our audience tonight why it is so significant for the regime to be kicked out of this UN body, what it signifies to you?
Well, I mean, this is a regime that discriminates against women on all levels, public and private family life. It has reduced the value of women's life to half of that of men. So for a government with these laws and practices where people are arrested for wearing the veil improperly, for being mixed with men who are not related to them, etc., they should not be in a body that promotes gender equality, that shapes standards and documents the situation of women everywhere. Iran wants to be in those bodies because they use the body for spreading information that is false about their achievements on women's rights and to basically increase their credibility within the international community and affect those standards that are universal, and Iran wants them not to be universal.
And what does it tell you that they were put on that body in the first place?
Well, they got the votes, and they got 45 votes, and meaning like some European governments also voted for them, but the ballot is secret, so we don't know who voted for them. But certainly, countries aware of Iran's record of discrimination against women have voted for them.
I should quickly say a note for our audience. Our producer on this segment did confirm with our ambassador, I believe, that Canada did not vote for Iran there. But certainly you're right. There would be a mix of Western countries that did. Do you think now, these months later, that the same thing could happen again? Or do you feel as though, is your sense that many of these countries have woken up to a degree?
Well, I think that if there is enough mobilization and the signatures, the high-profile women who have signed this petition should help. If there is civil society mobilization and public mobilization and pressure on governments, obviously it will create a discussion. And I think the fact that a woman died in detention because of showing hair, and that high school students and primary school students and university students are being arrested and some are losing their lives is enough to wake up some of these countries, I hope. And that's what we hope.
And we are seeing to a certain degree the manifestation of that in sanctions, for example. And we just in the introduction to this interview listed off some of the specifics around the fourth round from Canada. Is it your impression that these sanctions are making any tangible difference, or is there something more that you would recommend if a government came to you, for example, and said, what more can we do?
Well, I mean, people and entities that are sanctioned don't like to be sanctioned. That's why they always try to lift those sanctions. So these sanctions are effective to some degree, but they haven't been effective enough to get the discriminatory laws to change. And so I think something else is needed, and more political resolve is needed to hold Iran accountable and to, expelling Iran from the CSW is symbolic. right, is to show that the international community does not accept behavior such as that is occurring inside the country. The governments need also to be consistent. I mean, making statements is great, and it helps boost the morale of the people who are persecuted, but it's not enough. You know, talks should be followed by actions.
And when you are I guess, contemplating that against the backdrop of what is actually continuing to unfold in Iran, if you could offer your perspective to people watching tonight about what you think has driven these protests to continue for as long as they have, because we've seen other examples in Iran, for example, of, we've seen other examples of the regime there cracking down much more, much quicker and ending protests, really. And they haven't been able to completely. There's been loss of life, and they've cracked down in a violent way, but they persist. And I'm wondering why you think that is.
Well, because people have no other venue for calling for change. You know, they have tried every possible way to get their lives to improve and their laws to change, and they have always have a wall in front of them and have been persecuted for asking for change. You know, these young people, they don't see a future, and they have no hope, you know, in having a normal life. That's what they want, a normal life free of fear. And, you know, this is an existential fight, and they're out there because they don't have hope that anything good will come from this government or this, you know, this political regime. So that's why they're out, you know, and the fact that there is international solidarity, I'm sure that helps them help boost their morale. And this international solidarity that we've seen over the weeks is pretty unique and new, and I hope that it will continue, because we need this international security for the state to be a little bit more cautious in beating up and killing people, because it matters. You know, when people are watching, even if it doesn't look like the state cares about that, they do care about that. And that's why they also persecute people who provide information to the outside world about what's happening inside Iran, because they do care. And the only way to keep them in check is to show solidarity and to, you know, to pay attention, but also to create international mechanisms to investigate and hold them accountable.
Okay, I'm out of time, but I have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time, Ms. Boroumand. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.